Hi everybody and welcome back. Today we are going to finally be using our starter that we've been working on so hard to make sourdough bread. Now I just want to show you how bubbly that is, and it actually kind of foams up. So it started about here. It foamed up double, and so I feel that that's the best time to use the starter before it deflates back down, because come morning this will deflate back down to half of the amount, and right now it's just roaring. So we're going to take advantage of that and see if that'll help our sourdough flavor be more enhanced. So we are going to get the ingredients prepared in the bowl so that we can start kneading, which is going to take about 20 minutes. So let's get started. Room temperature, but purified. So a half a cup of water and a half a cup of our sourdough starter. Look at that. That's amazing. It's so gooey. Bubbly. It smells really good. We're going to use a half a teaspoon of sea salt. Now what we're going to do is we're going to use a wooden spoon, and we're going to just incorporate this as best as we can before we dive in with our hands. And I have found so far that, I know this is supposed to be really sticky dough, but I have found in making it thus far that it's really way too dry. So I know I will be adding more water to this. Okay, so far I've added a quarter cup of filtered water, and it's still, I'm not sure if that's going to be enough. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay this out on the counter. First I'm going to just take some regular unbleached all-purpose flour and put it on my work surface. You don't want too much because you don't want to dry it out. You just don't want it to stick to the surface that you're working with. We're going to dump it out onto our counter. And we're going to start working this by hand. Okay, I just washed my hands and I left the water on there so I can see if this is going to be enough. It's really dry, but it's also very dry and hot outside right now. So we'll see what we can do. Just trying to follow what they say to do as much as possible. So really you're just pushing and then folding, and then you want to turn it and push and fold, turn.
And this looks like a clump of turds, so we're gonna add more water.
It's been 25 minutes and it's looking really good. And the way to test it out is to take a piece off and to just kind of gently pull it like this and see if it's thin enough that you can see light through without it breaking. So as you can see, it's not breaking. If you go like this, you know, eventually something's going to break. But if you just kind of gently do this, then that means the gluten is activated and I can see the light through it. So that's a good sign. So we're going to go ahead and get it formed and ready for the proofing time. Okay, so that was a really good workout, guys. I mean, I got a nice pump going on, and this is going to turn out. So what we're going to do is we're going to get a pan. You can make loaves if you want. I'm just going to do it in a pan. And I've oiled the pan with some coconut oil all the way around like this. And the cool thing about using a pan like this is you can see it bubbling along the sides as it's proofing. So the proofing period is one of the most important parts. I'm going to go ahead and form this a little bit longer so it fits in the pan better. And then it's going to rise in this pan for quite a long time. So we're going to stick that in there. I'm just going to put a little bit of the oil over the top. You don't want to use olive oil because eventually we're going to be baking this at a very high temperature, and olive oil isn't recommended for high temperature cooking. So I've got everything oiled and ready to go for proofing. So the proofing period is very important because it's the time where the starter has time to eat through the flour and the water. And this is what's going to form the gases and the bubbles and make your bread really nice on the inside and fluffy. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cover this up with a lint-free towel, and I'm going to keep it in a warm place. It's 80 something degrees here right now. As you can tell, I'm wearing a tank top. It was 90 something degrees today. We're in Southern California. So it's pretty warm, so anywhere I put it is going to work really well for this. Hopefully you have a place that you can find works for you too. So let's go ahead and cover this, and I'm just going to keep an eye on it and watch it rise. You can do it overnight, from what I've been told, but I've never tried overnight. One of my experiences was I let it proof. It seemed to rise, but then it ended up deflating. So I think once you get a really good rise, maybe 3 hours, 6 hours even, and it's where you really want it for your loaf, I'd say at that point bake it. The baking period is maybe 30 minutes. It depends on how much. Well, for this one in particular, we're hoping about 30 minutes. So that part won't be very lengthy. So just kind of time it accordingly in your day so that it has time to proof and be ready. And then, like I said, the baking period is only about 30 minutes. Okay, so we'll see you after proof. Hopefully you all were able to proof your bread. Ours took, well, it's been 6.5 hours. But we noticed from 5 to 6.5 hours that it didn't do anything at all. So in that last hour and a half, it stopped moving. We didn't want to chance it and let it proof longer because I have heard that some areas the bread can deflate, and that has been our experience when trying to play with this recipe to see what would make the best results. So since it didn't move, we decided we're going to go ahead and bake it. So I preheated the oven to 400 degrees, and I have a skillet pan at the very bottom on the bottom rack. What I'm going to do is put the dough on the top rack, and then I'm going to put cold water in the skillet pan that's been heating up along with the oven. So this is what we got. We got it to the top here. We have a lot of nice bubbles in there, so that's a good thing. But I can see it, I cut 2 holes in the top so that it'll help when baking, that it won't crack anywhere else. But unfortunately, it's not going to get any taller than that. And I think a big part of it is that I'm in Southern California and it's been 90 degrees and very dry. We have the Santa Ana winds here, so it's been very dry. And I think that's a big factor in it deflating. It's not getting enough moisture. So it's still going to make a nice bread. So we're going to just go ahead and cook it. We're going to start with 20 minutes and see how it does, but ultimately it's probably about 30 minutes. So let's go ahead and stick it in the oven. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to put it in the oven. The top shelf. Now there. Close that. As much water as you can. Prepare for steam. It's going to be hot. Good enough. Close it on up. And we'll see you in about 30 minutes. Okay, so we pulled it out at 30 minutes, and the temperature says 207 degrees. You want to have it between 190 degrees to 210 degrees. So this tells us that our bread has cooked through the center. We won't have any mushiness in the middle or anything. So we're going to go ahead and take this out and then just let the bread cool. And once the bread is cooled, we'll go ahead and slice it and try it. I wanted to mention one more thing. You want to put this on a cooling rack because if you cool it in your pan, the moisture underneath will make the dough soggy. So make sure that you have it elevated off of your surface so that the bottom doesn't get soggy and it has a chance to completely cool off. we let our bread sit to cool off. It's not completely cold. It's still warm, but we're going to go ahead and cut into it and see what it looks like. So as you can see, there's plenty of air pockets. It has a nice crispy exterior. It feels really soft on the inside. It's still pretty hot, so it needs to cool off more. But it looks really good. The top is a little bit thicker than I might like. It reminds me a little bit of the Cheesecake Factory sourdough bread on top. It's pretty thick. I think that's just because, like I said, it was really dry out, and so the top kind of formed a crust before we even started baking. But it's okay because it's still perfectly fine. So we're gonna go ahead and cut the whole loaf so we can use the bread for breakfast, and we can go ahead and try a piece. I like to put a little bit of real butter on mine, and then take a little bit of garlic powder, sprinkle it on top. That. Let's bite into it and see how it tastes. It's perfect texture, nice and soft on the inside, thoroughly cooked. I really like the extra crunch to the top layer. I would have liked, excuse me, for it to rise a little bit higher, but the dryness did give us one thing, and that was an extra crunchy crust on the top, which is really, really nice. I really enjoy that. So we're going to play around with this recipe. I want to try different flours. As I used I used a bread flour. I'd like to try using just a regular all-purpose flour, organic. And I'm also going to wait until the weather cools down to the 70s and see if it brings some more moisture into the house. And see if that'll help with the rise times. Maybe kneading it in the evening before bed and letting it sit all night long might help as well, because the weather will be cooler during that time. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope that your bread turned out excellent and tastes as wonderful as mine does. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for future videos. And I hope you have a wonderful evening.